So, Scott, I want to start with you. You've got a 7-year investigation, it's almost 7,000 pages of material. How do you take that and condense it down to a 2-hour film and decide kind of what stays in and what falls by the wayside?
You write a lot of drafts and you ask your friends to read them out loud, because this was a movie that I always knew was going to involve a certain amount of people sitting in rooms speaking to each other, but I needed it to function as a political thriller, and so it was just listening to it over and over again and making sure that it made sense, but also keeping the momentum going so that it works as a thriller.
And Dan, for you, like how involved were you in the production process? Like, obviously you're sitting here, so I'm assuming that the answer is quite a bit, but I'd love to get your perspective on how you worked with Scott to tell this story to a larger audience.
Sure. Well, when the executive summary was released in December of 2014, my job was to talk to academics and talk to journalists and talk to people in the creative community about the declassified report. And Scott was one of the people who called, and he kept calling and asked really detailed questions, and we established a friendship, and I knew he was doing a script on this and helped him on the factual basis of the actual details in the report as much as I could.
One thing I really noticed in the film that feels very kind of prescient is the name Edward Snowden gets thrown around a lot. And the film is coming out at a time when he's just released a book and he's doing all this press, and it's like, oh, I keep hearing about this guy. So I would love to kind of get opinions from the two of you, like how you feel personally about Edward Snowden and the things that he did, and how that compares to what you did.
Well, I'll take that first thing, how I wrote those scenes. So I take responsibility for that. We have to sort of build a whole new taxonomy of what a whistleblower is and what a truth teller is. And the reason that I put those scenes in there is what Dan did is very different. Dan's job was to go and find out the truth about this program. So he was not, doing anything other than what the United States Senate asked him to do. And so I wanted the audience to understand that there is a system in place, and it's called oversight and accountability, and it's what the United States Congress is supposed to do to the executive branch.
I would say, whistleblowers are extremely important in our society, but there is a path you can follow, a legal path, which is what we're seeing today in Congress. And there were whistleblowers at the CIA that reported wrongdoing during this program throughout its existence from 2001 to 2009, and we relied on those whistleblowers to create the report.
I think one of the other things I really appreciated was that I think it's very easy, particularly looking at a film like Vice, which came out just real recently, it's very easy to paint people in the Bush administration as the villains. But this film doesn't really let anybody off the hook. And there's culpability on both sides of the aisle. There's culpability in every administration. And even, in the film we see, like, you can argue that there's culpability among, like, Senator Feinstein and her staff.
Yeah, look, to me, this story isn't about right and left, and Senator McCain said as much. It's about right and wrong, and it's not about the people who we tortured. It's what that program says about us, and I think that that's true of this whole movie. We've been given this amazing system, and yet it seems to be under siege right now. And for me, what was so striking when I started writing this was that someone like Dan did his job so rigorously, with such clarity of purpose, that I think it made, and the senators who I interviewed would say as much, that it made them do their job. And so we need to make sure that our system is peopled with folks who are gonna do their job with integrity.
So with that in mind, and kind of looking at the climate in which the film is coming out, where we're seeing a very similar situation kind of play out in Congress right now, where we have people refusing to comply with subpoenas and refusing to provide information. Like, it's almost like you couldn't have asked for a better time for this film to be released and to remind people kind of like how this process is supposed to function.
Yeah, I mean, I care more about my country than I do about my movie. So I'm not happy about what's going on right now. But I do think that history isn't a discrete set of events. It's a series of events, and they influence each other. And I think if you look back at the story we're telling, you can see the seeds of the moment that we're living through right now.
I agree. Well, listen, thank you both so much, and especially for you, thank you for all the work you did to bring this stuff to light, and Scott, for you to make sure that as many people as possible can learn about this event. I think it's hugely important.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.